And we're live.
All right, man. Thanks for tuning in again. And today is a very special episode of The Corner where we got Andrew on. Andrew was one of the first guests on my YouTube channel, and it's been almost precisely a year. It's been 14 months. Welcome back, Andrew.
It's great to be here. Has it actually been 14 months?
Yeah, man. We recorded in September 2019. Yeah.
Oh man, do you ever see that picture of how it looks versus how it feels, and how it looks is like someone getting older, and then how it feels is like someone is a kid, and then they hold like a mannequin up with a broomstick, and then as they get older, it gets harder to carry this mannequin with the broomstick. I had no idea it's been a year. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. That the anticipation of like how it's going to be is completely different from reality. But yeah, man, it's actually been like not exactly 14 months. I could see it when I was like sending you that GCal invite that we recorded on September 22nd. So we're almost 14 months. So it's like 13 months and a couple of weeks. But it was
Wow.
yeah. Time flies, man. It really does.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm googling it. I'm going
Yeah.
back through this to see when. Yeah. Oh.
Man, yeah. It is actually like a year. It flies fast. Um and yeah, like like I've just like been making these episodes since then. Had like a few months where I didn't upload any until this a guy on the other end here, Troy, convinced me to to start recording again.
Yeah, with a little bit of
Yeah.
help, maybe it's fair to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, I have a little bit of help.
Hmm.
The
But
trick is not stopping things. I don't know if you read the compound effect, but consistent action long enough yields huge results, right? So it's a good idea you're back on it.
but that's a okay. So that will like say that let's say you have like a kid selling ice cream in Florida, and he doesn't like get any sales, and he's like standing on the same spot at some beach. Eventually, he would then start making money according to that theory if he kept at it.
Mm, well, maybe or maybe not. But here's the thing: when we look at consistent action over a long enough period of time, as
Yeah.
long as these actions are based on improvement, right? So if let's say he's selling ice cream on the corner, and he says, "I'm going to try and sell ice cream, for 8 hours every day." And then 1 hour at the end of every day, I'm going to try and improve my sales by 1%. Right?
Yeah.
After 5 years, he's the largest seller of ice cream in Florida, right? Just by spending 1 hour a day to be like, that corner wasn't so great. Let's try a different corner, or let's try a new sign, or let's do blah 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 blah. But the tiny improvement over a long enough period of time has huge results.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see the logic in that.
And since this is online, the more content you put out, the more Google, the search engine, rewards you, right? So
Yeah.
as long as you continually put out content and tag it accordingly, you're going to get more traffic, and more traffic is going to yield more traffic.
Yeah, that's true. Gotta keep at it. Um, so how how is it like working out for your company? I mean, like you had been at it about a year last time we spoke, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're doing exceptional. We have about 10, 11 employees at this point. We have one subsidiary at the moment, so we hopefully at the end of this month, that's going to be another three, so up to four subsidiaries. Um, We have two products out the door along with our services. Um, we're closing an investor hopefully this weekend, right? Well, it's Sunday for me, so hopefully today, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's been going fast. Like we looked at the last 2 quarters, and we 11x'd our revenue each quarter, right? The last 2 quarters. Like it that I mean, I'm gonna be honest. The pandemic has been great for business for us, um, but yeah, it's been good. It's been really good.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that like the pandemic would be good for your business, because it opens up a door for more. It opens up the door more for the automated business part of businesses, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. About 4 months ago, we got contacted by a business, and they're like, our business has taken a hit because of COVID, but we have strong cash flow anyways. So what this has given us the opportunity to do is finally optimize those things that we wouldn't be able to do because everyone's working so hard, right? Um,
Can I jump in here quickly? What is your business, by the way? Maybe I wasn't. I didn't listen to the last podcast good enough. But yeah, what is it you work with actually?
Yeah, so we do business process automation. So we work
Ah,
for
okay.
businesses that are already doing something, right? And they're currently powered by humans. And we build software and integrate software to do those things on their behalf, right?
Ah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, and the client that reached out to us and was like, "Hey, business has slowed down a bit for us, but we like this allows us to optimize our business processes." Um, they were having a lot of problems that they like the friction between their sales and their operations team was huge, right? Every project was just this massive thing that needed to happen each time, and no one's communicating, and clients are upset, and blah 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 blah, right? But by being able to slow, like, hey, our business slowed down, and let's do this automation thing now. They're able to do 4 or 5 times more volume as a business than they were, had this virus never happened, right? So for us, it's been really good. Business has been really, really good from the virus, and um, given our how we've done a lot more account acquisition during this time. Over the next year and a bit, it's probably going to get a lot busier as well because we're going to grow with these companies that we partnered up with during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's a
So
mutual partnership, right? That like you are locked in with them and they're locked in with you, and then you follow up and do services and stuff like that. I
yeah,
suppose.
the idea of it being like a sticky business model is probably a good way of describing it, right? We land a client, and then as their company grows, our billables with that client grow with them, right? And so, especially during the pandemic, we very early on said, you know what, I'm willing to not make money on the first 3 deals of each of these clients, just so we can grow with them on deal 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it.
So
And I'm like also like guessing that the pandemic isn't going away anytime soon either. So it like will probably be another year of this, I think.
yeah, where I am, we're now in wave 2, right? But most of my clients are American, and they never got out of wave 1, right?
No.
And I also read about like Wuhan and how like 3% of the population has antibodies, so it's unlikely there's going to be a vaccine anytime soon, right? And then I think there was somewhere in Europe, I don't know where. You guys would probably know better than me, where there's like a mutation for COVID now,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
so
in
they're
Denmark where we are.
yeah, so like even if they had a vaccine, like that mutation isn't covered under the vaccine.
Now I'm like thinking like how effective like would the next vaccine be? Because like take the flu shot vaccine to compare it with. Even if you get a flu shot, then that's still no guarantee that you can't contract the flu virus, or that you
Yeah,
can contract it later.
I exactly. I think at this point, like COVID is like the new influenza, right?
Yeah,
So do you remember the? I read about the. Not do you remember, but I read about the influenza pandemic of like the 1918, right? And
yeah,
how it swept across the nation, and they treat it like a pandemic, blah blah blah. But now we just call influenza the flu,
yeah. Like
right? And
back then they
every
called it the Spanish flu, right?
exactly, right? And
Yeah.
so everyone gets a flu shot every few years, and some people don't, but COVID is never going away,
No, I don't
right?
think so.
Like it it could have been contained initially, but now it's here forever, right? And so I don't think we're ever going to have like the one vaccine that deals with it forever and ever. We may have to get a COVID vaccine along with our flu vaccine, every couple of years, kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
But I don't think it's going away at this point. Like I was telling someone on my team, I'm like, in our lifetime, statistically, both of us are getting COVID. And he laughs. He goes, "You think so?" Like, I'm pretty sure, we both wash our hands and wear the mask. I'm like, doesn't matter. It's never going away at this point. We're both going to get it sometime in our lifetime.
yeah. No, I believe that. I believe that. Like I haven't
By the
thought about
way,
it, but
the mutation that is rising here in Denmark comes from the animal that is called a mink. That's because we have a lot of mink farms here,
it is the largest supplier of mink in the world.
and there's a bunch of regulations on it that are not really that strict here in Denmark. So there has also been a lot of debates politically about this. That we have way too loose regulations
You know,
on that area in general.
like I don't get like the fucking decision there. Like that. Yeah, we're going to put down all the mink in Denmark, which is something like obscenely normal, obscenely that like 2 billion mink. Like you're gonna put down two billion mink.
Yeah, well, like I mean, they have been infected with this new
Yeah, but
mutated COVID virus,
couldn't you
and
just
also
isolate the farm and then it will go away by itself?
no, and also the problem is these mink farms have long before COVID been in the spotlight of the media as like an area where the politicians are doing nothing because it is farming minks is they're vicious animals. They attack all other smaller animals. They break out of their encasings and they attack chickens and stuff. So there's a lot of problems with these things apart from the COVID situation as well.
Wow, all that so that lady can get a $20,000 coat.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, not to divert you guys because I actually just wanted to be in the background here. So yeah,
Yeah,
you were saying.
I
uh,
I
yeah,
googled mink. Um, it's interesting because it seems very consistently all these pandemics pop out of like factory farms, right? Yeah, everything from mad cow, swine flu, um, bird flu, right? I guess COVID didn't came from bats, but this new version of COVID from mink farms. I didn't even know these things were farmed, right? But I guess they are.
Yeah, in Denmark they are like hugely.
yeah. Um, well, it's like regardless of all that, like I think like it will be exciting to see during this pandemic if there will be any big time bankruptcies amongst companies, like especially airliners. because they have to take huge hits by now regarding restrictions and where to fly and all that.
I think the airline industry isn't gonna change per se, right? Like, or there's not gonna be a bunch of. I mean, there is gonna be a bunch of them going out of business, but
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be more of an ends to end thing, right? So rather than you go to the airport, right? Like your vacation would start on this end. So basically you go into a hotel, you relax a bit, you pack your stuff, you're catered, blah blah blah. Let's say 4 days into it, you're picked up at a with a limo or a taxi or whatever. You're driven directly from the hotel right to the plane, right? You get on the plane, you get off the plane on the other end, you're driven directly from the plane to the hotel at the other end, and you have another 5 days until you're free, which would give it like a
Now,
10-day window.
oh yeah, okay. So I see like that you're being like kind of like forcefully quarantined, or I guess like you choose it by going there, but you have to be quarantined for like these days so that they can check to see if you're infected or not. Um,
Yeah, so
yeah,
you'd be quarantined the whole travel, right?
yeah,
Um, which I think would be probably a better experience than how you're currently, doing airlines. I mean, the airline industry had some problems to begin with. Like, no one's ever had a really good experience with air travel, right?
yeah.
The other thing to bring up about the airline, excuse me, the airline industry is in Canada we have two national airlines, right? There's a bunch of like regional airlines, but they're not in the major airports, right? So we have our two airlines, Air Canada and WestJet. Now, neither one of them were turning a profit before COVID, and after COVID, they're now all losing money, right?
Yeah.
So now it's a game of chicken. Which one of those has enough cash in the bank to keep its assets, as in its planes, its hangars, and its employees, right? Before declaring bankruptcy. So at one point, or at some point, one of them is going to declare bankruptcy, right? Because one of them is going to declare bankruptcy first, and the other one is going to buy the first one's assets, which would mean in Canada we would have an airline monopoly, right? And so, of course, then if we have a monopoly, the government's going to come in and say, "Hey, we got to break up this monopoly," but they can't break it up because when there were two players, it wasn't like they weren't able to keep afloat. So the only alternative that the government's going to have for like to keep Canadian airlines in business is by nationalizing it. And so I'm guessing that in the next 9-10 months, um, airlines in Canada will be nationalized. We'll have Air Canada as a division of the Canadian government.
Oh wow! Like you mean to say that like they would buy up majority of that company to make sure that it stays national. Okay, I get it.
I don't know if they'll even buy it up. Like, I don't know how it is in Denmark, but if you take the bus from somewhere, who runs that bus?
Uh, I'm not
The
sure.
government.
Yeah, well, in Norway, that is a privatized company that is paid by the government.
Okay, but it's still run by the government, right?
Yeah,
So the government issues the contract to run it runs the same way out here. There's the government issues contracts, like operations contracts for certain areas for it to be operated by a private company, but essentially it's still a government run organization, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen to airlines in Canada,
Okay, yeah, okay, I see. Well,
right?
it it
So
will it will
it's
suck. It will suck majorly for any newcomers then that wants to establish themselves as a new airliner in Canada when there will be like one big magnet, one monopoly. guy who has it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think another competitor is going to come in, right? Like, think about it. What new airline has entered into that field in the past 15 years?
There been like established airlines. Um, so I guess like there hasn't been like that many new airliners that has like entered that field, but it's happening something in Europe now though. As do you know like the company Norwegian airliner?
I I don't, but I have been following the airline industry for a bit, right?
Okay.
I know there
Yeah.
is a trend to go um, away from hub and spoke and into end to end, like micro travel, like micro uh, airlines, right? And so in Europe, this is now popular. It's very easy to go from any location to any location via air travel.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. And like
Yeah.
with this Norwegian, it is the same. It's the same that you just depicted. That they don't have the cash flow and they're like on the verge of like declaring bankruptcy, but they're holding on for everything that they can. And like I think that they must have had like between 50 and 100 planes in the air, if not more. And now they have seven in the air, and everything else is grounded in hangars. And what this is like creating is a vacuum um, that needs to be filled. And now there is Hungarian airliner Wizz Air moving into to Norway to start up something there. And on top of that, there has been like a bunch of like top bosses and directors from this company that has bailed on the company and is now like also starting up their own company in Norway, an airliner.
Hmm.
And I gotta like say like that's a shitty thing to do. Like, hey, like thank you for like giving me the chance and this top job and all that stuff and the stocks. I'm bailing out by opening up and then also bringing like employees from the company with you. Kind of like a
Yeah.
big yeah.
I don't know if you follow I think that's probably a good business move, and I'll tell you why. Right?
Yeah.
Kia and Toyota have been doing the same thing. Kia is a relatively new company, right? Like it started in Korea, I don't know, the late '90s kind of thing. Um, Maybe in the mid '90s. I'm not too sure, but Kia could not make cars. Their cars were for a while just really bad quality. I don't know if you remember or if the cars made it to Europe in the early 2000s. Like if you wanted to roast a car, you'd roast a Kia, right? And what they did is they just poached a bunch of Toyota employees, right? So, managers and executives from Toyota went from Toyota to Kia, and they brought a bunch of people with them. The reason this works so well is because Toyota, even though Kia and Toyota are essentially the same company, they operate the same way, they produce very similar cars now. But the reason this works so well is Toyota has a bunch of bloats, right? So they have I forget the word for this, but like when you retire from Toyota, you get like the uh, not a severance package, but like there's the I don't know, the 401k thing that you've been saving with the company,
Oh, okay. So
right?
that's like the pension that the company has.
Pensions.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Toyota has to pay out its pensions to a company that's been around for a very, very long time, right? And this keeps profits down, and it makes growth a little more difficult for Toyota than it does for Kia. And so, even though they do the same thing and they operate very similar and they address the same market, right? Kia doesn't have that bloat, that extra fat
Oh,
that Toyota
yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah, that's true because Korea doesn't have pension laws or laws that is regulating this, so they don't have to pay that extra 12% bump from your salary.
And And so the same thing is probably happening with European airline, right? Like all these airline executives and people who work for airlines, the pilots and whatever, they have these pensions, right? And now that the airline is in trouble, they have to pay the pensions before they pay their employees. But the employees are the real assets of the company. So if they leave the company, bring in a bunch of the employees, and the company goes under and they no longer have to pay the pensions, but all the employees and the systems and the planes are essentially the same, then great. Now you just trimmed a lot of the fat of the airline.
Yeah.
So my question, if they're all moving to Norway, what's Norway's pension laws like?
Uh, well, like it's the same, man. Like they still have to pay a certain amount, but you're right though. Like it's not mandated as closely like as like in a lot of these other countries, um, because it is government regulated, right? So yeah, that's how it is. Like it's the government that is doing this and like taking money from the taxes and stuff. So I don't think that this is heavy hit on the companies as in other countries.
Yeah, and also they can get away, like, if you have, say 20 years until your first pension is paid, you
Yeah,
can grow the company before before that first pension is paid, compared to that other company who's now needs to pay it out before it pays your normal employees.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. Um, like back to like this, that if you go on retirement in Norway, then your salary will be about or like your pension will be about 50% of what you have earned on average the last 10 years. And this is not how it works, right? In large parts of Europe, like in Denmark, I think it is like more closer to that you will get paid 70 to 80% of your salary in pensions.
Wow.
Yeah. So like they're really stressing this in Norway that that you should have like a separate savings account. You should have like mutual funds or index funds accounts or something to compensate for the hit that you're going to take when you go on pension and you only get this 50%.
Right. Yeah, there's this thing out here called the Canadian Pension Plan,
Yeah.
right? I don't know much about it. I don't know how much, what percentage of your income they pay, but I'm I'm banking on the idea that the Canadian pension plan is going to go bust before I get to retirement age, right?
Why?
So it's a Ponzi scheme, right? So it works. It only works if there are more people paying into it than are paying out of it, right? And so if a population is growing, you're fine. But if you look at Canada's population, much like Japan, I think Norway may be in the same spot, which is why. Uh, Anyways, so Japan's population is shrinking because young people are having less children, right?
Uh,
Canada's in the same boat, right? And so the Canadian pension plan is going to collapse under its own weight because less people are paying into it than it's paying out.
yeah. I thought like the Canadian population was growing. I don't you like have like a lot of immigrants, such as like Toronto, that consists of 40 to 50% immigrants.
It's growing, but only because of immigrants, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is, you can't grow a nation's population through immigrants, because if let's say you double the immigration numbers, right, it completely overwhelms our immigration system, right? And we can't double it every year just to keep up with demand, right? So
Yeah.
right now it's being fueled by immigration, but even with immigration, it's still like we're stable but not growing.
Okay. So it's just like on a standstill on
It's on a
zero.
standstill, and I don't know. There's a lot of let's say populist pushback on immigration. So I don't know if it's safe to say it's going to go up or down, but the immigration numbers are let's say in flux.
Yeah.
right? And so I think Canada, like over my lifetime, I doubt that Canada's population will keep growing to the state that uh, Canada Pension Plan will still be there.
Aren't they doing something to change all this? Like, I don't know, like how is it, for instance, if a couple, let's say like a couple have a kid in Canada, um, then does one of the two have to quit their job? Or do they like get some kind of like paid maternity leave or something um for X amount of
Yeah,
months?
maternity leave is determined by the employer and not the government, right? So
Wow. Okay.
it's like having you know additional health insurance or dental kind of thing, right? Like, oh, you get maternity leave at this company. Oh, cool, that's a great bonus for joining on, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's only 6 months, right? A friend of mine, or not a friend, or a business partner, got it when his wife had a child, right? It's like, yeah, 1 month for one partner, and then like 4 for the other, but it's
Wow.
determined by the employer and not the government.
Holy shit, man. So
Yeah,
you could so it could be like really unlucky then and have an employer that says, "Nope, you want
yeah,
you want to
yeah.
go on
Happens
maternity leave?"
happens all the time.
Yeah.
Happens all the time, right? Like, okay, cool. You're having a baby Friday. Cool. See you Monday, kind of thing.
Yeah. God damn.
Happens all the time.
Wow. Well, I mean, like, no wonder then, like, why the population is on a standstill because, like, that would have to change. Um, really, like, that would have to become like European standards. Like here, it is 9 months paid maternity leave, and that's by government law. And well, that's for the woman though. That's for the mother, and then the man gets 2 weeks. But here's the thing, though: you can split it. You can choose to say that like that. I'll take uh, I'll take 4 months, and my husband takes 5 months, right?
Right. Yeah,
And
you can
this,
do that here as well.
yeah,
I think that makes sense, right?
yeah,
But yeah, here I think it's based on the employer, right? I don't know, like I haven't looked too much into the benefits around this. I don't have kids, but I think between that and a small tax break, like it's yeah, you're on your own kind of thing. And the other thing is, I don't know what real estate prices are like over there. I'm looking at Italian real estate, and like, oh boy, is that I'm gonna say cheap compared to what's out here.
yeah. But
Um,
you gotta also take in consideration though that Italian salaries is like way lower, way lower than let's say like the $50,000 you would say is like average in Canada.
yeah, that's not the average in Canada, right? So this is the thing. Like I've looked into it. I looked at how much it costs to buy a place, and then what comparable rent is out in Italy, right? Looking at a few places in Milan,
Yeah,
right? And I showed these numbers to some real estate investors out here, and they run a quick calculation and go, wait, 28%? All right, Andrew, are you sure these numbers aren't wrong? I'm like, no, these are correct numbers. This is after all the fees and everything. This is the correct numbers. Because this is great. So what is it? It's like um, rent monthly rents times 12 divided by the so or nets times 12 months divided by the sell price is
yeah.
like your internal rate of return or whatever it is, right? In Canada, if you find something at 8%, it's probably a buy. If you find something at 10%, prepare for a fight, right? Anything higher than that, you're getting scammed.
Like
All right.
what are you talking about when you're like saying percent?
Yeah,
Um,
it's called the internal rate of return, right? So you take your let's I'm gonna open up a calculator. So you take your rent. So um, Let me just open up one. So it's like, let's say 600 euros, right? Times 12, right? So that's,
Yeah.
I've got 7,200 right now, right? Or 17,
Okay,
yeah,
so
7,200
okay,
euros.
so what you're talking about is how much you could rent it out for.
Yeah. So how much
Right.
exactly? How much you can rent it out for
Yeah.
times 12 months,
Yeah.
right? Divided by the list price, right?
And then you get the return of investment rate on
Yeah.
X amount of years.
Yeah. So it's the internal rate of return on that real estate, on that property, right?
Yeah.
And now, I don't. You guys can do this for properties where you are. When I was doing this for Italian places, it was around 28, 25%, right?
Wow, holy shit, man! So you would like earn your money back in 3 years plus a month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. If you do this in Canada, right, you're looking at 5, 6%.
Wow, really?
So yeah, it's crazy. And so like, if you're a Canadian family, right, suddenly you're like, wait, hold on, I have to work for 40 years just to pay my house, and that's at current market, right? If the market goes, belly up, I'm screwed. Okay, well, so I should probably save up some money, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're saving money, you're not going to have kids, even if you get the the maternity leave or whatever it's called, the leave,
Yeah.
right? And so because of this, Canada's population is on decline, so they have to bring in more immigrants, right? And of course, it gets this like weird feedback loop thing.
Yeah. God damn.
Yeah.
Little side note here: Canada's population isn't on a standstill. As of 2020, the yearly change was 0.90% or 89%.
And the average salary is 54K US.
So this has nothing to do with the population, but yeah, like it will probably though reach because it has been on a decline for the last 40 years. So we are likely to hit a minus percentage, like a declining birth rate in Canada by 2050 or 60 or something like that. According
So
to
hold on,
according
this
to
past year,
what?
this past year is 0.98%.
Yeah, 0.89% the yearly change. So that was additional citizens in Canada, according to worldometers.info. Anyway.
Yeah, but that's probably also
How much of that is birth rate
yeah,
versus immigration?
yeah, I was going to say that.
Oh, that is the fertility rate is 1.53.
Okay, so that's 1.53 kids then per couple.
Per person.
Yeah.
Per person.
Oh, per couple. So
Yeah,
that
I
is a
think that-
declining birth rate.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah. That is per couple, so that is
Yeah.
a declining birth rate.
Okay.
And it hits the 0.
Oh, right. It has to be over 2 in order to be
it
sustainable.
has to be 2
right.
in order to
Okay.
be
So
sustainable.
the birth rate in Canada is declining, and like I said, we're only growing as a nation because we've been able to have high immigration.
Yeah, it's actually been declining all the way since the 70s. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and
then
each year consistently we've increased our immigration, right?
Yeah.
Man,
That's
like Canada is just too huge.
Yeah, it's
fucking huge.
Big country. So I was telling a friend of mine, like I'm on Vancouver Island, which if you look at Canada, right, there's like this weird tiny island on the left side. Like that tiny island is like the size of the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Right? And it's, no one lives here. There's two cities here, essentially, two cities. Right? The rest of it are just like a small towns.
You live on Vancouver Island?
Yeah.
I thought like Vancouver. Am I mistaken? Like, isn't the city of Vancouver on Vancouver Island?
No. Okay, you guys learned some Canada today, right? Let me hold on. Google Maps. If this ever gets put on in video, you got to show the image here, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna zoom out. So Vancouver Island, is it's it's a large island, and then Vancouver's a small city, to the right of it, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Vancouver Island. That's where they filmed that show. Alone. Yeah. Got it.
So the thing though is, if you look at Vancouver Island, you'll see it's mostly green. If you look at it on Google Maps, it's mostly green. And you
Yeah.
look at Vancouver, it's oh, there's a lot of roads there, right? So Vancouver Island is mostly empty, right? There's the city of Victoria, which is the capital of the province, and then there's Nanaimo, which is like, I don't know, another city, but the
How
rest of it's essentially empty.
how long time does it take on the ferry ride from either of those two towns to Vancouver City?
2.5 hours.
Holy shit! I thought that you were going to say like 20 minutes.
Oh no, no, it's like 2.5 hours. One of them I think is 1.5 hours, but from where I am, it takes me 2 hours to drive to the nearest ferry.
Wow. Haven't they like thought about like building a tunnel or something under?
Oh yeah, it's not happening. There's not enough traffic. So there is a high speed ferry that goes directly from Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, to downtown Victoria, right, which
Yeah.
is the big city on the island. And it takes an hour and a half for that one. It's a high speed ferry, and it's high speed because they don't have any cars on it, right? Like it's like the bus from Vancouver to Victoria. But again, that's an hour and a half, and they actually need to justify that one's existence because there's not enough people who go on that ferry.
Wow.
They're like,
Man, that
yeah, but not enough people are go from Vancouver to Victoria.
man, that's crazy.
Yeah, some of the things to note here is Vancouver, it's the biggest city on west coast of Canada. There's a lot of business here, a lot of media here, a lot of game development companies here, right? In Vancouver, go to Victoria. There's one industry, which is tourism. Right? The towns, the cities are not even like remotely similar to each other.
No, man, like I'm like just still baffled over the distance between these places.
Yeah.
And
No, well, I'm just gonna do a quick Google search, but I'm pretty sure Vancouver Island is like the size is larger than the Netherlands, right?
yeah,
Um, with maybe 10% of the population.
yeah, yeah. Of course, like with like 10% of the entire population in Canada in one place, and like that's some of the issues of Canada, that it being so huge, and the majority of the Canadian population lives in these big cities like Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, uh, Montreal, Quebec. So
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say a lot of people live in Winnipeg, but uh, yeah, I mean, I think 90% of our population is within 2 hours of the American border,
yeah,
right? And then once you're beyond that, there's like no one,
yeah,
right?
then
It's
like
just blank.
completely nothing, and we're talking about like the second biggest country in the world in geographical term.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is why our cell phone companies justify like high fees. Oh, there's a lot of area to cover, and not everyone needs all that area kind of thing. So we have to charge you more. And
Yeah,
everyone's like, yeah, but no one's in all these areas. You don't need to cover it,
yeah,
right? So
man, like there also has to be like a lot of areas then in Canada that have issues like with getting like fiber internet cables and stuff. If
yeah, there was a website. I would need to find it in my province. There's like this ghost town thing, right? So at some point in history, there was a mining outpost somewhere, right? And then they ran out of gold, and everyone left, right?
yeah,
But there's a whole town located. There's a number of these towns located somewhere in BC, not far, right? One of them was like 2 hours from Hope, kind of thing, right? To Hope is a city in BC, right? 2 hours from Hope, there's this abandoned town, and you
yeah,
could buy the whole thing for like 40,000 Canadian, which is like €30,000,
Yeah.
right? Now you'd have to pay for gas, gas generators, so you can get electricity, and you could pay for some satellite internet, and it's going to ring you up another 20 or 30,000. But you can have your own town out in Canada, right,
Yeah.
for a pretty cheap price.
Man, that's crazy. Regarding like ghost towns, I like know somebody that went sailing along the U.S. East Coast in Canada, and said when they got to what was it called? Newfoundland?
Hmm.
Newfoundland. Yeah. Was absolutely nothing outside of St. John's. It was like a
Yep.
couple of houses and like but like a lot of abandoned shit. And most people that was like living there is people working on oil rigs and has like the time to be home, working on those like 2-4 shifts.
Yep. Yeah, I won't comment too much on the Maritimes,
Mm.
because yeah, it's there's not a lot of population out there, but I think they're sensitive. Like Canada has no problem roasting Toronto, right? Or Winnipeg, right?
So why
Or Calgary, but
why
you can't
why
really roast the.
I was going to say like why isn't there like any like huge businesses somewhere, because like there has to be, when you look at this map, there has to be like large parts of Canada has to have like minerals and resources that is unexploited.
Yes. So the mines are usually like let's say um, Calgary or Alberta, right? There are a bunch of mines and oil rigs,
Yeah,
right? Um, but those end up being like rig towns, and I think the last one that was popular was Fort McMurray. But then there was a fire that happened there, and like the whole town burnt down, and so I don't think a whole lot of people live out there anymore, right? Um, but BC has a number of mines. Nothing open pit, but I think it's our third largest industry. Calgary is oil and mining, and then Saskatchewan between farming and they actually have potash mines that are very popular. I don't know what's going on in Manitoba. Ontario also has mining, but after Ontario, if you look at Quebec and the Maritimes, there's not a whole lot of mining. The Maritimes, they're doing a lot of stuff with fishing. I don't know what town it is. I'm a really bad Canadian for not knowing this, but there's some lobster issue going on the in the Maritimes right now, right?
all
And
right.
yeah, I think it's their number one industry is fishing, and lobster is a big part of that. And there's some dispute between lobster rights between a native band and uh, I don't know the other party, like some company or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's a really hot button issue that I'm not going to touch with a 10-foot pole, because the all of Canada is really upset about this right now. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to touch that.
About lobsters.
About lobsters, yeah.
Yeah.
Like of all the things you could be upset at, like everyone's really mad about lobster right. I know some building was burnt down. Like some dude arsoned a building. Like this is how hot button lobsters are right now. A
Yeah.
building was burnt down, right? Some guy got so mad at the other team that they burnt down a lobster processing plant.
Man, imagine that. Well, burning down buildings for the rights to lobster.
For lobsters,
Yeah.
right? Now
Yeah.
here's the like I remember hearing this story about this in like medieval times or like Victorian times or whatever. They would feed prisoners lobsters because it was viewed as the cockroach of the sea, right? And so they're feeding prisoners lobsters, right? And at some point, some royal decree came down that said that's inhumane and stopped them. Like, no, absolutely, like we can't feed our prisoners lobsters. That's so inhumane. And
Wow.
maybe 300 years later, we're now burning down buildings for the rights to fish them.
Yeah. That is madness. Absolutely. Um, but like, well, what about lumber industry in Canada?
Yeah, I know. I don't follow lumber that much, so I know it's BC's second largest industry, right?
Yeah.
Um, this is gonna like this blew my mind when I first heard about this, right? So you may or may not know that cannabis was recently legalized in Canada, right? So
Yeah,
it's
but
now you're allowed to.
you still like have some issues like with how to tax it, right? It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot more issues than that. We're gonna go in that in a second. But back in 2008, um, uh, marijuana was British Columbia's largest industry and our largest exporter. And I think it was 3 to 5 times larger than lumber, right?
Wow,
So,
Jesus Christ.
right?
Yeah.
Like they had no choice but to legalize it because it's the only thing our province was making any money doing,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, we exported a lot of lumber. After that we mined a lot, but we grew a lot of marijuana, right?
Yeah.
And so they legalized it because, like, oh, well, the whole country's doing it anyways, and it's our number one export. Let's just do it, right? But you want to talk about how to bungle your marijuana laws, right, or your legalization laws? This is the funniest thing, right? In BC, so each province does their cannabis laws, however they want, right? Basically, the federal government says, "Hey, you need to legalize marijuana. Make whatever laws you want." So the provinces say, "Cool, we'll do that." And so in British Columbia, the provincial government came in and said, "Okay, we're going to make some laws. How do we do this?" And someone suggested, "Hey, marijuana gets you high, so we should use a lot of the alcohol laws." And everyone, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's take a bunch of the alcohol laws. And then someone else said, "But wait, guys, you smoke marijuana, so we should use a lot of the cigarette laws." And everyone said, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's include a lot of the cigarette laws." And so we have this hilarious combination that ended up with the following, right? Now, I don't know what it's like in Denmark, but you're probably not allowed to be drunk outside, correct?
No. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
it's
No, aren't
so
we, Troy, aren't we allowed to be drunk outside? I
Outside of
believe,
what?
like, outside of
out,
our, outside.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
Like that happens every single weekend here. The drunk idiots
yeah,
are
yeah.
stumbling across the city.
But I will though like add here that like Denmark, Germany, and like possibly like a lot of other Western European countries are very liberal on this matter. Because if you go to Norway, for instance, yes, then it is almost fucking illegal to be drunk outside, and you cannot drink a beer at the pub unless you are on the pub's property. If you step out
interesting.
if you step outside of the pub or you bring a bottle from home with you and you start drinking that in public or in the street, then that's an offense, right? And you can get a fine for it or whatever. But
Yeah,
but in
they have
Denmark,
they have the same thing here.
in Denmark though, you are perfectly fine to bring an open bottle of vodka in plain sight and sit down on a park bench and get hammered.
Wow. All right. I learned something today.
Yeah.
In, in Canada, it's called public intoxication. So the two rules around this are you can't have any open alcohol, right, anywhere in public, right? And then two, you can't appear visibly intoxicated. So if you're stumbling or you're slurring your words or you're, vomiting, like, you can get arrested for that, right?
Wow. Crazy.
So they implemented the same thing with marijuana, right? So you're not allowed to be outside and appear visibly stoned. So that means you can't have red eyes and stuff like that. You can't have a big smile on your face, et cetera, et cetera. You also can't smoke marijuana in public.
Wow, you
All
can't
right,
you can't have a big smile on your face? What the
well,
fuck?
if you got this big smile on your face and you got red eyes, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're gonna think you're high.
in combination with the
Yes,
red
yeah,
eyes,
in
right?
combination
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're allowed to be happy in
Yeah,
Canada. Yeah,
exactly.
it's not a
That was what I
not a
thought.
thing. But
Okay.
so that's the first part
Oh
of this
shit.
law, right? No
Yeah.
public intoxication, so no smoking in public and no being stoned in public. The other half of this came from the cigarette laws, right? Now in Canada, you're not allowed to smoke inside. Smoke a cigarette inside you actually have to be at least 5 meters away from the nearest doorway or vent. Prevent the whole secondhand smoke thing. Make sense? That also got applied to marijuana. You're not allowed to smoke inside, or at least 5 meters within an open door or vent. So
where are you supposed to smoke it?
exactly. It's a crime to smoke outside in public, and it's also a crime to smoke inside. So it's completely legal to smoke marijuana in Canada, but it's not legal to smoke it outside or inside.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, and
I
so
remember,
basically, right now it's completely legal. But if a police officer catches you smoking, they're going to give you a ticket.
wow. Like, and when I
Because
was
you're either smoking inside or you're publicly intoxicated.
wow, when I was in Amsterdam, that was like pretty liberal, and people were just smoking in the park or going to these coffee shops to buy and smoke.
Yeah, don't let you do that here. They don't have. I haven't seen any coffee shops. They haven't implemented any of that. What's interesting is I think all of the marijuana is bought online because most towns, despite it's legal, right? So you're allowed to have and grow marijuana. I think growing is we'll come back to that. You're not allowed to smoke it outside or inside, but also the sale of marijuana has to come from a licensed dispensary, right? And that comes out by the province. And then each town, each city you're in, each municipality actually, has their own marijuana regulation. And so, you'll have a liquor store on every corner, but some towns won't let anyone sell marijuana because they don't want to corrupt the neighborhood.
Wait. So, okay, so you could just open up like a web shop and be like, "Yep, there's a sale for like a pound of marijuana. I'm gonna pack that right up now and send." And that's perfectly legal to send in the Canadian mail.
Yep.
Damn, that is
Yeah.
massive.
So the
By the way, guys,
distributor-
if I may cut in here, we are sneaking up on an hour, so I would give this like 3 more minutes before we reach an hour, and then like if you guys want to keep talking, then we can turn this into a 2-parter.
We'll end
Sure.
it. We'll end it like in 5 minutes. Just let us know, Troy.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
But just
So
just mind we're on the last part here. On the last part.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
I'll close this out in a second. So the number one distributor of marijuana in Canada is the Canadian Post, which is a government organization. Because most towns don't want to have a marijuana, like a cannabis dispensary somewhere in town, right? Even though, like the town I'm in, I can't even begin to count how many liquor stores there are. But there's no cannabis shops because the town's like, oh, we don't want to be one of those towns that has a cannabis shop, despite it being completely legal in Canada. And so everyone buys it online.
I don't get it, like, because cannabis is de facto way less hazardous to your health than alcohol.
Yeah,
alcohol
I don't get it
kills you.
either. I don't understand it either. Like, we all know the effects of over drinking, right? We've all seen it on, some Friday night club rush, right? We've seen people ruin their lives with alcohol, but I've never seen someone ruin their life by smoking too much.
No.
And it's just, I don't get it either. Again, there's a liquor store in every corner, but there's not one cannabis shop, so everyone just buys it online, and therefore the federal government through Canada Post is the largest distributor of marijuana in Canada.
Yeah.
Because all the competitors like FedEx or Pure Later are all American companies, and they all have policies that say we won't distribute marijuana.
Well,
Man,
there have been documented very few, that needs to be said as well, but very few documented cases of cannabis-induced psychosis. I'm pulling it up here as we speak on Psychiatric Times, for instance. There are,
Yeah,
but that's like a few people do have a tendency to become a subject for psychosis when they smoke it.
yeah,
But that's a minority in the population. But I mean,
very very low, very low
it
percentage.
still exists, and I think that's the reason why it hasn't been legalized in Denmark yet, is because this is not the same. This is not the same case with alcohol. You don't have these few cases of very severe psychosis dangers to the individual, because we're talking hardcore mental problems due to cannabis here.
It has been legalized in Luxembourg, though, or it is legalized from January. I don't remember.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
my point is just that's the reason why it hasn't been legalized in a lot of countries, is because of this effect on certain individuals.
I think so too, but I think it is more the society's viewpoint on it, which I was like getting to with like Canada, like kind of society. Yeah, totally. We kind of accept marijuana and stuff when it brings those taxes and stuff. But then when it comes to opening up like these dispensaries, like you're talking about, Andrew, then it is like with almost closed eyes, looking suspiciously, being like, "We don't accept that here."
Yeah.
Well,
And by the way, I just Googled it, and apparently 3 to 4% of people dependent on alcohol get psychosis. So
wow. Okay.
there's
Yeah.
also
Shit.
alcohol-induced psychosis. So
Wow.
there's not a really good excuse, because it turns out drugs just cause psychosis.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's not a good excuse. It is just a society's viewpoint on it.
Can you
But eventually,
send me that link after, and I'll post it in the description of the video when we.
Literally, I just Googled alcohol-induced psychosis, and then it showed up in the people also ask section.
but I think like we are heading towards a trend where more and more countries are going to legalize it, as we are starting to realize what we're missing out of in taxes.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
It's gonna
yeah,
happen, man.
gonna happen. So yeah, eventually it will start to become legalized everywhere. In Portugal, it is not legalized, but it is decriminalized.
Yeah.
So that meaning that it is okay to use it, but it's not okay to sell it. Um, well, I guess that was that. We're going to round it off here. Any last words from any of you?
I've got nothing.
All right. Well, then I want to say thank you, Andrew, for showing up here again after 13 months. We got to do this again soon, at least like sooner than the next year.
Yeah, 13 months is too long, man.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. Well, and to all you listeners, then thank you, subscribe, and comment on all that, and also check out Andrew's webpage in the link below for his company.